Good evening again, friends. Thanks for joining us as we continue to read the greatest book that was ever written, The Great Controversy. Our topic tonight is God's Law Immutable. The papacy has attempted to change the law of God. The second commandment Hello? How far are you at now? You call me. You leave already? Oh, okay. You mean that try to do something you can call about when you close by? Yeah, we are just on reading, yeah? Yeah, you okay? Alright, so call me back when you reach close by. You lock your door and turn on your lights? Alright. So we talk to you in a little bit then? Alright. Okay, cool. The papacy has attempted to change the law of God, the second commandment, forbidding image worship, as being dropped from the law, and the fourth commandment has been so changed as to authorize the observance of the first instead of the seventh day as the Sabbath. But papists urge as a reason for omitting the second commandment that it is unnecessary being included in the first, and that they are giving the law exactly as God designed it to be understood. This cannot be the change foretold by the prophet. An intentional, deliberate change is presented. Ye shall think to change times and law. The change in the fourth commandment exactly fulfills the prophecy. For this, the only authority claim is that of the church. Here, the papal power openly set itself above God. While the worshippers of God will be especially distinguished by their regard for the fourth commandments, since this is the sign of his creative power and the witness to his claim upon man's reverence and homage, the worshippers of the beast will be distinguished by their efforts to tear down the Creator's memorial, to exalt the institution of Rome. It was in behalf of the Son of Sunday that Popery first asserted its arrogant claims, and its first resort to the power of the state was to compel the observance of Sunday as the Lord's day. But the Bible points to the seventh day and not to the first as the Lord's day. Said Christ, the Son of Man is Lord also of the Sabbath. The fourth commandment declares, the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord, and by the prophet Isaiah, the Lord designs it, my holy day. You can find that in Mark 2 verse 28 and Isaiah 58 verse 13. The claim so often put forth that Christ changed the Sabbath is disproved by his own words. In his Sermon on the Mount he said, think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled. Whosoever therefore shall break one of the least of these commandments, and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. Matthew 5, verse 17 to 19. It is a fact generally admitted by Protestants that the scripture gives no authority for the change of the Sabbath. This is plainly stated in the publication issued by the American Tract Society and the American Sunday School Union. One of these works acknowledges the complete silence of the New Testament so far as any explicit command for the Sabbath or definite rules for its observance are concerned. Another says, up to the time of Christ's death, no change has been made in the day, and so far as the record shows, they give any explicit command enjoining the abandonment of the seventh-day Sabbath and its observance on the first day of the week. Roman Catholics acknowledge that the change of the Sabbath was made by their church, and they declare that Protestants, by observing the Sunday, are recognizing their power. In the Catechism of Christian Religion, in answer to the question as to the day to be observed in obedience to the fourth commandment, this statement is made. During the Old Law, Saturday was the day sanctified, but the church, instructed by Jesus Christ and directed by the Spirit of God, has substituted Sunday for Saturday. So now we sanctify the first, not the seventh day. Sunday means and now is the day of the Lord. As the sign of the authority of the Catholic Church, Papist writers cite the very act of changing the Sabbath into Sunday, which Protestants allow of, because by keeping Sunday, they acknowledge the church power to ordain feasts and to command them under sin. The Roman Church has not relinquished her claims to supremacy, and when the world and Protestant churches accept a Sabbath of her creating, while they reject the Bible Sabbath, they virtually admit this assumption. They may claim the authority of tradition and of fathers for the change, but in so doing they ignore the very principle which separates them from Rome. The Bible, and the Bible only, is the religion of Protestant. The Papists can see that they are deceiving themselves, willingly closing their eyes to the fact in the case. As the movement for Sunday enforcement gains favor, he rejoices, feeling assured that it will eventually bring the old Protestant world under the banner of Rome. Romanists declare that the observance of Sunday by Protestants is an homage they pay in spite of themselves to the authority of the Catholic Church. The enforcement of Sunday keeping on the part of Protestant churches is an enforcement of the worship of the papacy and of the beast. Those who, understanding the claim of the fourth commandment, chose to observe the false Sabbath instead of the true Sabbath, or thereby pay in homage to that power which alone it is commanded. But in the very act of enforcing a religious duty by secular power, The churches would themselves form an image to the beast. Hence, the enforcement of Sunday keeping in the United States would be an enforcement of the worship of the beast and his image. But Christians of past generation observed Sunday, supposing by so doing they were keeping the Bible Sabbath. And there are now true Christians in every church, not accepting the Roman Catholic Communion, who honestly believe that Sunday is the Sabbath of divine appointment. God accepts their sincerity of purpose and their integrity before Him. But when Sunday observance shall be enforced by law, and the world shall be enlightened concerning the obligation of the true Sabbath, then whosoever shall transgress the command of God to obey a precept which has no higher authority than of Rome, will thereby honor popery above God. He is paying homage to Rome and to the power which enforces the institution ordained by Rome. He is worshiping the beast and his image. As men then reject the institution which God has declared to be the sign of his authority, and honor instead that which Rome has chosen as a token of her supremacy, they will thereby accept the sign of allegiance to Rome, which is the mark of the beast. And it is not until the issue is thus plainly set before the people, and they are brought to choose between the commandments of God and the commandments of men, that those who continue in transgression will receive the mark of the beast. The most fearful threatening ever addressed to mortal is contained in the third angel's message. That must be a terrible sin which calls down the wrath of God unmingled with mercy. Men are not to be left in darkness concerning this important matter. The warning against this sin is to be given to the whole world before the visitation of God's judgment, that all may know why they are to be inflicted and have opportunity to escape them. Prophecy declares that the first angel would make his announcement to every nation and kindred and tongue and people. The warning of the third angel, which forms a part of the same threefold message, is to be no less widespread. It is represented in the prophecy as being proclaimed with a loud voice by an angel flying in the midst of heaven, and it will command the attention of the whole world. In the issue of the contest, all Christendom will be divided into two great classes: those who keep the commandments of God and of the faith of Jesus, and those who worship the beast and his image and receive his mark. Although church and state will unite their power to compel all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, Revelation 13 verse 16, to receive the mark of the beast, yet the people of God will not receive it. The prophet of Patmos beholds them that had gotten the victory over the beast, and over his image, and over his mark, and over the number of his name, stand on the sea of glass, having the harps of God, and singing the song of Moses and the Lamb.